He was the boy king who faced down the mighty Saladin, a ruler whose brilliant mind and iron will defied a body ravaged by disease. This is the incredible, true story of Baldwin IV, the Leper King of Jerusalem. Our story begins in the 12th century, in the heart of the Crusader kingdom of Jerusalem. A young prince, Baldwin, is playing with his friends. As boys do, they're testing their courage, digging their fingernails into each other's arms. Everyone flinches, everyone cries out except for Baldwin. He feels nothing. Not a single prick of pain. His tutor, the historian William of Tyre, notices this strange lack of sensation and fears the worst. His diagnosis is confirmed: the young prince has leprosy. In that era, leprosy was more than a disease, it was a divine curse, a sentence of social death. Lepers were outcasts, forced to live in colonies, ringing a bell to warn others of their approach. For a future king, it was an unimaginable catastrophe. The throne of Jerusalem was a precarious one, a Christian kingdom surrounded by powerful Muslim states. It needed a strong, healthy warrior king to lead its armies. A leper king. It seemed impossible. Many believed he should be sent to a monastery, hidden away from the world. But Baldwin was no ordinary boy. Despite his grim prognosis, he received the education of a king. He studied scripture, law, and history. More importantly, he learned the art of war. He became a superb horseman, a skill that would define his legend. Even as the disease began to take its toll, making it difficult to use his hands and feet, he learned to control his horse with just his knees, a testament to his sheer, indomitable will. At just 13 years old, his father died, and the impossible happened. The boy with leprosy was crowned King Baldwin IV. The lords of the kingdom, recognizing his sharp intellect and regal bearing, placed the crown upon his head. But a child king, and a sick one at that, was a sign of weakness. And in the ruthless world of medieval politics, weakness was an invitation to predators. The greatest of these predators was the legendary Sultan of Egypt and Syria, Saladin, known to the West as Saladin. A brilliant strategist and charismatic leader, Saladin had a singular goal: to unite the Muslim world and drive the Crusaders from the Holy Land. With Baldwin's ascension, he saw his chance. In 1177, Saladin invaded the Kingdom of Jerusalem with a massive army of over 26,000 soldiers. The Crusader forces were scattered. The main army was in the north, leaving the south, and Jerusalem itself, dangerously exposed. Baldwin, now 16 years old, had only a few hundred knights and a few thousand infantrymen at his disposal. His advisors begged him not to engage. It was suicide. The odds were insurmountable. They urged him to take refuge behind the walls of the nearest city. Baldwin refused. He knew that if he hid, Saladin would simply bypass him and march on Jerusalem. The holy city would fall. He had to act. He had to take the fight to Saladin. With his small, vastly outnumbered force, Baldwin marched his troops to intercept the massive invading army. The two forces met near a castle called Montgisard. Saladin, so confident in his numerical superiority, had allowed his army to become spread out, many of them busy plundering the nearby villages. He never expected the boy king to attack. It was a fatal miscalculation. Baldwin, his body already weakened by his illness, addressed his men. He dismounted his horse, knelt before a relic of the true cross, and prayed for victory. Seeing their young, afflicted king showing such courage and faith, his knights were filled with a near-fanatical resolve. They mounted their horses and charged. The Crusader charge at Montgisard is one of the most astonishing moments in military history. A few hundred knights slammed into Saladin's much larger and prepared army with the force of a thunderbolt. The surprise was total, the impact devastating. Saladin's personal bodyguard of Mamluk warriors was shattered. The Sultan himself was nearly captured, escaping only because he rode a faster camel. His army, which had seemed invincible moments before, broke and fled in a complete rout. It was a stunning, miraculous victory against all odds. The legend of Baldwin IV was born. The 16-year-old Leper King had personally led the charge and defeated the most powerful ruler in the Muslim world. Even his enemies were now. Muslim chroniclers wrote of the Piglet King who had turned the tide of battle. For the next few years, Baldwin ruled with a wisdom and authority that belied his age and his condition. He was a master diplomat, a shrewd administrator, and a constant presence on the battlefield. Even as the leprosy progressed, relentlessly consuming his body, his mind remained as sharp as a razor. He couldn't wield a sword himself, but he could outthink any general. As the disease worsened, he began to lose his sight. The nerves in his hands and legs died, leaving them useless. He was often racked with fevers. Yet, he continued to lead. When Saladin invaded again, Baldwin, now unable to ride a horse, had himself carried into battle on a litter. The sight of their king, a living symbol of defiance, carried at the head of the army, was enough to inspire his soldiers to fight with unmatched ferocity. Time and again, Saladin would probe the kingdom's defenses, and time and again, he would find Baldwin there to meet him, forcing him to withdraw. Saladin developed a deep respect for his young adversary, recognizing that as long as Baldwin lived, Jerusalem was safe. But the king was fighting a battle he could not win. By his early 20s, he was blind and bedridden. The disease had ravaged his face, which he often kept covered with a mask. The kingdom, knowing its great defender was fading, descended into political infighting as ambitious nobles vied for power. Baldwin, ever the responsible monarch, tried to secure the future of his kingdom. He appointed regents and arranged for his young nephew to succeed him, trying to hold the fragile state together from his sickness. In 1185, at the age of just 24, King Baldwin IV died. He had held the throne for 11 years, a reign defined by courage, intelligence, and an unbreakable spirit. He had defied his disease, defied his political rivals, and defied the mighty Saladin, preserving his kingdom against impossible odds. His death, however, marked the beginning of the end. Without his leadership, the internal squabbles he had so skillfully managed exploded into open conflict. The rash and arrogant new leaders of the kingdom abandoned Baldwin's cautious and strategic policies. Just 2 years after his death, they led the Crusader army into a catastrophic trap at the Battle of Hattin. The army was annihilated, and Saladin finally achieved his life's ambition. He captured the city of Jerusalem. The story of Baldwin IV is a profound human tragedy, but it's also a story of incredible triumph. It's about what a person can achieve, even when facing the most terrible of circumstances. He was a king who was dealt the worst possible hand but played it with the skill of a master. He was not defined by his illness, but by his courage, his intelligence, and his unwavering dedication to his people and his kingdom. The Leper King, the boy who couldn't feel pain, left a legend that has inspired people for centuries. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as incredible as we did, please hit the like button, subscribe for more epic tales from history, and let us know in the comments which historical figure you'd like to see us cover next. See you in the next video.